Right, so good evening and welcome to the stream today, our special live podcast session as we talk about the ICAG examination, talk about the 2025 Auditor General's report, as well as share our thoughts on some of the key things that we must understand going on and commenting on some of these things to help us as we go and look at some of these updates. And so you are welcome. Give us a thumbs up on the video if you join. If there are any questions, put them in the comment section for me. I would want us to hear from you wherever you are watching from. Something you want me to share my thought on, don't hesitate. Put it in the comment section or the chat for me. I want to really hear from you as we get into the discussion today. The first thing certainly we want to talk about will relate to the ICAG examination July 2026. The exam ended on Friday, and it was an interesting journey, interesting experience, interesting reactions from our students and from people across the aisle. And people are sharing their thoughts on the ICA exam and what is going on at the end of the day. And sometimes it gets interesting because, in my opinion, looking at the script, I was like, yeah, the ICA examination is getting better and better every day. And it goes back to what I say every time that you have to understand that the ICA examination is evolving and the ICA as an institution is reaching a point where it is not just going to be pick and choose and walk away. Whatever is in the syllabus, the examiner is going to be asking you in the exam hall, but in his way, style, choice, or how he wants to present things generally at the end of the day. And it was an interesting experience, right? So, subjects like management accounting, question one, we know it is going to be on performance measurement, right? Where you are talking about transfer pricing, divisionalization, organizational performance measurement, and all that. Yeah. And but on the average, over the last few examination dates, the examiner is going to be bringing a calculation related thing so that at least, I mean, students are able to do some calculation and get some ticks and walk away. But in July 2026, the examiner was like, I'm not doing any calculation related issue, but I'm still going to bring questions on organizational performance. I'm still going to bring questions on divisionalization. I'm still going to be bringing questions on performance measurement for divisions. And so there were questions on ROSI, there were questions on non-financial performance indicators used to measure performance of organization, and there was questions on triple bottom line as a performance measurement model for organizations. And so no calculation related question in the question one area, but everything there, it's something that you should have known going into the exam hall. Come to issues like financial reporting. Question two, we know it's going to be on the standards. And on the average, students expect that, oh, there will always be calculation related issues for them to work on. Yes, there were calculation, but there were equally some theory related accounting standard issues that the examiner just want to pick your brain on, in addition to the standard 20 marks question that will be dug in question five. Same thing in public sector accounting and finance. You know, question two is going to be on the IPSAS. This examination died, the examiner brought a 15 marks question on IPSAS 47 revenue, focusing on construction contract, performance obligation going beyond one accounting year. 15 marks question. And then the other 5 mark question was on IPSAS 35, consolidated financial statement. And so, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is this, that if you are preparing for the ICA examination, if you are planning to go into the ICA examination, you need to really be prepared for the exam. Gone are the days that you can sit down a week to the exam, take some miserable leave from work, and think that you can do some shabo thing and walk into the exam and pass the examination. It is over with those strategies. It is no longer going to work. If you are going to pass the examination, then you have to be adequately prepared, because the topic is the topic, the syllabus is the syllabus, but the quality of the questions that the examiner is bringing now is going to require you to bring the best in you in order for you to pass the examination. And so what do you do now? The exam is over. What do we do? There are a couple of things you can do, three strategies that I would say. Strategy number one, or option number one, is certainly to start preparing for the next examination. So if you are preparing for November 2026 and you are going to be writing an exam, start learning. Whatever subject you wrote, what are your next subjects? If you have some other subjects, maybe start learning because you've built some momentum, your brain is ready and active, and so you can leverage that and start preparing. So maybe you have 2 papers left in level 2. Okay, start studying them. Maybe you wrote all your papers you have in level 2 in the July, and so now you are going to level 3. Okay, so you can start studying corporate reporting and advanced audit and assurance in level 3, or depending whatever it is that you have to do, but you can start studying now. So that is the first thing you can do. Start studying for the November 2026 examination. And our enrollment is open, and so you can actually enroll and start studying with our key summary videos, previous live lecture content. Our content library is available through which is covering the syllabus through and through to be able to prepare for the examination. So you can actually enroll and start studying now before our live lectures commencing on 10th August 2026. So that's the first thing you can do. Start studying now. Because you see, the average person writing the ICA examination is an employee or a corporate executive, an employer, or, has some responsibilities. Okay, married, children, and other things. So there's a lot on your plate. And Nuntina, you have to spread out your study time and make sure that you have a long period of time covering things on a daily and weekly basis so that by the time the exam is ready, you have comprehensively covered the syllabus. But if you sit down and say, oh, I'm busy, my work, my wife, my husband, my child, you cannot have time to study, then you go to the exam hall and you suffer the shock of your life and you will fail the examination. So option number 1, start studying now. That's the best thing you can do. Start studying now. Enroll and start studying, building your momentum now before live lectures even commences. That way, you are putting yourself ahead of time to enable you to prepare adequately for the examination. The second option available for you is to wait for the results. Yeah, because some of you would want to wait for the results to, pull the trigger or make the decision. And so that's the second option. Say, hey, I'm not going to learn. I want to wait for the results because I'm not sure what I wrote. And so in that case, I will still be studying the papers that I wrote. So maybe you wrote corporate reporting and advanced audit and assurance, and the advanced audit and assurance went well, but the corporate reporting did not go well. Or you wrote strategic case study and advanced taxation, and then the advanced taxation went well, but the strategic case study did not go well. And so you are like, okay, the way it went, I'm likely to write this subject again. And so I want to start studying. Yes, so you can start going over your notes just on a, not that intense, but then you can start reviewing your notes because you are waiting for the results. Then you can make your next move. That's also an option available. You can go for it. The third thing is just, ignore everything and then take some time off and enjoy life. Because, hey, at the end of the day, you need to also pay attention to other aspects of your life. There are some of you who have literally put some aspects of your life on hold because you want to finish the ICAG before, or you are occupied with the ICAG examination. And so now that you have finished the exam, it's a good time to take some time off and then, spend quality time with family, loved ones, take a vacation or something like that. You just want to reward yourself for the season or for the period to put you in the position so that you can be well refreshed and in an anticipation of your results as well, hoping that things will go well. Then you can make a decision as to what you are going to be doing going into the future. So these are the 3 alternative options available. The best alternative option, in my opinion, is certainly going to be the fact that if you still have some papers to write going into the exam, then certainly you want to start learning. Okay, that's the right thing to do because it affords you the opportunity to cover the syllabus in record time. Listen, the ICA examination is getting better. The ICA examination is now something that is good. I was telling my students this, that the examination requires people with high level of intelligence, okay? high level of understanding of the subject and structuring of the syllabus, very important. And people who can work with speed and accuracy under pressure, very important. Because sometimes you are going to see the questions. If we give you the opportunity, you have 3 hours, you have 6 hours or 8 hours, you could do it. But you just have 3 hours in the exam hall. So writing, speed and accuracy, all of those things can affect your ability to pass the examination. That is why you need to start studying now. That is why you need to start building your muscles now, spreading the time. Then you can really put yourself in the position to go into the exam hall in November, write the exam with confidence, and pass the examination. So the earlier you start studying, the better it is going to be for you, so you can pass the examination. So that is just a brief overview and the next call of action, if I can put it that way, for the ICAG and what you need to understand in respect of that. I see some of you guys joining. Give me a thumbs up on the video, share the video. Let's reach as many people as possible. Most importantly, let me hear from you in the comment section. Any questions you have for me? If you wrote the exam, what was your experience like? What's your plan for November? What subjects are you seeking to do next? And then any other questions that you would want me to share my thought on, I would really be excited to provide you with some answers as we build our knowledge in respect of that. So that's briefly something you have to understand about the ICAG and how the exam is going. Please note, the quality of the examination is getting better and better and better. So the ordinary thing of sitting down, doing nothing, and waking up and starting to try to do something 3 days to the exam, 1 week to the exam, those days are over. Now, you have to consciously sit down, study to really put yourself in the position to go into the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and pass the examination. Now, the second issue that we want to talk about relates to the 2025 Auditor General's report. Now, this is crucial because it has a lot of remnants in the various subjects in the ICA examination. And so we're going to be discussing that comprehensively, the 2025 Auditor General's report. But before I go into that, let me say this, that please know that everything discussed in this video is sourced directly from the official publicly available 2025 Auditor General's report. We are strictly reporting on the findings and queries raised by the Auditor General for Parliament. And nothing in this video should be taken as a personal accusation or fraud or illegal activity against any company mentioned. So that is something, a quick disclaimer that we want to make before we get into the discussion. Now, the Auditor General is required to audit the financial statement of all state institutions at the end of the day. And so at the end of the day, the report is going to be issued, and the Auditor General is mandated to provide details about various irregularities, make recommendations on how the things are going to be. And 2025 Auditor General's report, which came out not long ago, a few weeks ago, is no surprising. So it's a usual thing that the Auditor General does. And so let's get into it and then cover some few things in respect of that. Now, the Auditor General, how does he conduct his audit? It's important we begin the discussion from there, and this is valid for students writing advanced audit and assurance. Okay, so if you're writing the advanced audit and assurance in the ICAG examination, some of these thought processes are valid to help you understand issues in respect of auditing and the role of the Supreme Audit Institution. The head of the Supreme Audit Institution in Ghana is the Auditor General of Ghana. So this is quite valid for us here. And we're going to be going through, there are public sector issues and other key areas that you have to be mindful of as we crystallize some of the discussions here in the Auditor General's report. And so I'm reading directly from the Auditor General's report. This is the official Auditor General's report, highlighting some few key things. Then we get excited into the discussion for today. So how does the Auditor General carry out his audit generally? The audit was conducted in accordance with international standards on Supreme Audit institutions and best practices. Now, INTOSI, that is the International Organization for Supreme Audit Institution, is an international organization which Ghana is a member of. Ghana Audit Service is a member of, and they issue international standards on auditing in public sector. So just like how the International Audit and Assurance Standard Board issues the ISAS, okay, the International Standards on Audits for the private sector auditing, INTOSI also issues international standards for supreme audit institutions. So INTOSI issues the standards that are used by the Supreme Audit Institution, which is the audit service in Ghana, to audit financial statements. So the Auditor General is saying that, hey, I did my audits in accordance with number one, the international standards issued or international standards of Supreme Audit Institutions, and these are issued by INTOSI, and best practices, noting that the public financial management system of Ghana is underpinned by relevant legislative and administrative guidelines, such as the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 91, the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663 as amended, the Audit Service Act 2000, Act 584, the Public Financial Management Regulations 2019, LI 2378, and the accounting instructions of departments and agencies approved by the Controller Accountant General in consultation with the Auditor General. And so this is about the key issues, the laws that governs how the auditor carries out his work. Again, in private sector auditing, the private sector auditors will carry out their audit in accordance with, as we said, the ISAS, International Standards on Auditing, and then also in accordance with, the Code of Ethics issued by the ISBA Code of Ethics explicitly stated, and all of those things. In the public sector, the Auditor General, these are the guiding principles that sets the tone for him or her to be able to carry out the audit. What are the objectives? When the Auditor General undertakes the audit, what is he trying to achieve? What's the objective for this? Why is the 1992 Constitution, why has the Constitution mandated that this be done? And when the Auditor General does it, what are we trying to achieve? A number of things. Number one, it is the overall objective of the audit was to determine whether proper books and records of accounts were maintained. So, did the entity record things well, maintain things well? The accountants, the internal auditors, did they do their job well too? Accounts were properly kept. 3, all public monies due were fully accounted for. This is one of the key areas that always we have problem. Whether all public monies due were fully accounted for. 4, rules and procedures applicable were sufficient to ensure an effective check on the assessment, collection, and proper allocation of the revenue. Another key area. Monies were expended for the purpose for which they were appropriated and the expenditure made as authorized. And lastly, programs and activities were undertaken with due regards to economy, efficiency, effectiveness in relation to the utilization, to the resource utilized and results achieved. So this is the concept of value for money. Because in the public sector, the overall objective is value for money. Economy, ensuring that the resources are obtained at the least cost. In other words, we didn't break the bank to be able to meet the needs or procure things. Efficiency, looking at the relationship between the input and the output of utilization of resources. Effectiveness, whether the resources are serving their intended purposes. And so these are some of the objectives that we need to be mindful of when it comes to the audit in the public sector. And so what are the benefits for this at the end of the day? The following are general and relevant outcomes or benefits to the audited entity and all stakeholders. So when the Auditor General carries out his audit, the audited entities have these benefits. 1, the audit may lead to improvement in the quality of financial information to stakeholders. Very important, right? So at the end of the day, you know that, hey, you are going to be audited. So if you're going to be audited, then you're going to provide a reliable financial information that will help stakeholders to make better decisions at the end of the day. 2, the process could enhance compliance with public financial management laws and other relevant or related legal frameworks. 3, the audits could help improve key internal controls that could minimize fraud, risks, and errors. Because as part of the work of the Auditor General will be to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of internal controls, or even the adequacy or existence of those controls in the first place in the organization. And so the Auditor General is going to do that, and that will help to improve. Then the last thing is that the audit process assists covered entities in highlighting best practice that, when observed, could improve good governance, check, and safeguard against loss, misuse, or abuse and damage to government properties. So these are a number of things that we must understand when it comes to the benefits or outcomes expected of the audit. Okay. So the big question we then have to ask ourselves is, what are the key findings? 2025 audit. This was the first time this new administration's work is being looked into by the Auditor General, because this new administration took office on the 7th, right, of January 2025. And so this was the first time their work was being reviewed by the Auditor General. And so people were like, okay, we wait and see. We wait and see. What is in the Auditor General's report? A number of things that we must understand in the Auditor General's report that we want to highlight quickly. On the overall, the Auditor General made an assertion that about 5.26 billion Ghana cedis were involved in irregularities. So when it comes to the irregularities in the financial statement of ministries, departments, and agencies, 5.26 billion. Now, you want to be careful, because the auditor said that this represents about 256% margin of systemic failure in a single year. Because, almost 5.3 billion Ghana cedis. That is what is happening. Now, what is really driving this? This unprecedented jump is almost entirely driven by the collapse in tax compliance and collection. Stay with me carefully. So, unlike some previous years where it's about Shale, Jashka, Ye Diska, Ye Cheska, Ye Yewe, about 91% of the almost 5.3 billion Ghana cedi irregularity was due to tax compliance and collection. Okay, so let's go down there and see what happens generally at the end of the day. Comparative basis, it is categorized into 5 major groups. 5. So 2024 infractions, 2025 infraction. First, tax irregularities. In 2024, the tax irregularities was just about 1.56 billion Ghana cedis. But this ballooned into 2020 into 4.808 billion cedis, or 4.80 billion cedis in 2025. Now, that is the significant increase. Tax irregularities. We're going to get deeper into what that means. But that's the key driving force of the irregularities reported in the Auditor General's report. Tax irregularities. The second thing relates to cash irregularities. We'll come to that as well. That also has increased from about 177 million to 410 million. Payroll irregularities, payment of ghost names, and those things, paying people who are no longer in existence, but they are getting the money into their account for some reason. Payroll irregularities, that came down. It came down. So 2024, it was 57.8 million. But in 2025, it came down to just 19.9 million. Now, 19.9 million is still high, but it's a significant reduction. At least we got to praise the government a little bit on that. We'll come back to that. Contract irregularities. This is awarding of contracts, payments for contracts that people didn't do any work, awarding of contracts that the prices are inflated, and all of those things. So contract irregularities, 2024, about 31.1 million. In 2025, it is only about 3.3 million. Then debts and loans, irregularities. In 2024, that was around 188 million. In 2025, that has reduced to only 29 million. So, tax irregularities, when it comes to revenue collection, there is a problem there. Cash irregularities, there is a problem there. But when it comes to payroll, when it comes to contract irregularities, when it comes to debt and loan, we have seen significant improvement in 2025 as compared to what happened in 2024. And so what's the conclusion here? The state tightened internal expenditure controls, but completely lost its grips on external revenue collection. Yes, Uncle Ato is forcing, putting in place controls, right? So you will realize that from last year, for instance, people were out, the Minister of Finance is not releasing money, the Minister of Finance is not spending money, that is why the city is stable, and all of that. Then I'm paraphrasing this, okay? The Minister of Finance came out to say that, hey, listen, we are not spending because we have to spend, but we are putting in place controls to ensure that we spend on things that we have to spend on. So it's not just that somebody has come and say, I have awarded contract. This is the warrant. Hey, Minister of Finance, pay. Then you start paying. No. So there is high level of financial or fiscal discipline by this administration, at least in the 2025 year. But in as much as Minister of Finance has put and tightened the internal controls on expenditure, they are losing the other aspect of the battle, which is revenue collection, how money comes in. And nothing that we are seeing the tax irregularity going up from 1.58 billion to 4.80 billion from 2024 to 2025. So that is what we need to understand there. Internally, the government is tightening its grips, making sure that we don't spend, or we only spend based on what has been approved, what has been allocated, and what is required. But when it comes to the inflows, the revenues, Uncle Ato is not doing well on that part. And it is his job. So he's not doing well on that part. And so let's break down and find out some of the key things really driving this. So when it comes to the public financial cycle, the consolidated fund on the overall will have three key leakages. All right. The first leakage is the revenue collection failure. The revenue collection failure. So as we said, about 4.8 billion. This is money that never entered the state coffers. Did I say 1.8? Sorry, 4.8 billion. These are monies that never entered the state coffers, driven by GRA oversight, uncollected VAT, and free zone anomalies. That's the first thing. We're going to come back to this in a moment. Just stay with me. The second thing is the expenditure control failure. Yes, in as much as there has been some internal controls put in place to significantly reduce irregularities on the expenditure side, there is still about 460 million Ghana cedi monies that entered but was disbursed without authority, driven by unpresented vouchers, dead pensions on payroll, and unretired interest. So, yeah, we have seen improvement on the expenditure side of things, but bro, 460 million Ghana cedi is still a significant amount of money that could do a lot for the state. Then the third leakage is contractual and asset failure. This is just a little over 3 million Ghana cedis. Okay. These are money spent without value delivered. So, government of Ghana spent this money, ministries, departments, and agencies spent this money, but no value was delivered. This is driven by unexecuted works and under-delivered procured assets. So, two key things here. People were awarded contract to do the job. They didn't do the job, but they got the money, or they underperformed. So if you were supposed to maybe send us 50,000 of things, maybe they sent 30,000, but they were still paid for the 50,000. So these are the three key leakages that we can talk about when it comes to the consolidated fund as per the Auditor General's report. The revenue leakage, 4.8 billion. The expenditure control failure, 460 million. And the contractual and asset failure, 3.3 million. So let's get excited a little bit and talk about the revenue aspect, right? Because that's where the real deal is. So let's spend some time and talk a little bit about the revenue aspect to get some understanding of what is going on in that revenue aspect there. So let's go. Revenue aspect. And as we mentioned, the revenue aspect is driven primarily by that tax irregularities. To be specific, 4,801,918,422 Ghana cedi. And this represents 91.2% of the total financial irregularities across the ministries, department, and agency, driven solely by tax infractions. So yes, there is a lot smelling in the ministries, department, agencies, but the smelling 91.2% is due to tax infractions. And so what are some of these revenue leakages? Let's look at them. Divided into three major categories. Category number one is institutional debtors. About 3.02 billion Ghana cedis. We'll come back to that. Unremitted domestic taxes, $1.6 billion plus. These are monies that people withheld whilst making payment to third parties, but refused to remit the money to the Ghana Revenue Authority. 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. Then the third thing is customs and trade leakages. About 222 million Ghana cedi and some 20 million US dollar plus. So the tax infractions, the revenue leakage happening, the total of 4.8 plus billion Ghana cedi is divided into these three categories: institutional debtors, unremitted domestic taxes, and customs and trade leakages. What does this mean? It means that the 4.8 billion deficit is not a single point of failure, but a comprehensive breakdown across GRA assessment, collection, and remittance mechanism. It means on the overall, we can say to some extent that some people at GRA may be sleeping on their job, may not be doing their job very well, just on the low-key level, right? But these are the things that we must understand, the three main categories of the tax infractions. But let's break it down a little bit. So we have said that state institutions, about 3.02 million. State institution. Now, this is concentrated into, 10 state institutions are leading or taking a significant portion of that 3.02 billion. You're going to see that in a moment. Private and domestic entities. Mass non-compliance, that is 30,000 plus taxpayers are not complying. 30,000 plus taxpayers are not complying. Then customs and trade actors, targeted infraction, corporate importers and transit agents. What is going on here? When it comes to the state institutions, the primary mechanism here is that the taxes are accrued, ignored institutional tax debt. So they are supposed to pay the tax, but they have not paid it yet. Individuals and domestic entities withholding levies but failing to remit to GRA. I always ask myself this question. You are an entity. You are a withholding agent. You have withheld tax. Withholding tax simply means that, for instance, you see, Kukua, let's just give an example, okay? So let's say that Kukua sells to Ohima, okay? So Kukua sells to Ohima, how much? Let's say 100 million Ghana cedis. And it is a good, it's goods, right? To Ohima. Ohima is a withholding agent. And so when Ohima is paying Kukua the 100 million Ghana cedis, because it is goods, Ohima is required to withhold 3% of that money and give it to GRA. In addition to the normal withholding, Ohima Limited may also withhold VAT, okay, on the payment that they are making. So technically, Ohima Limited will not give Kukua Limited all the 100 million. They will withhold some per the tax laws. And the amounts they withhold, at least by the 15th of the subsequent month, after the month that they withhold, they are supposed to pay that to the GRA. So Ohima Limited was paying Kukua Limited 100 million Ghana cedis, but they didn't pay all the 100 million. They withheld 3% because it is goods. They withheld VAT and other things on the money. That money is not your money. Why won't you remit it to the GRA? That's the whole concept of withholding taxes. Employers, they pay their staff. And when they are paying their staff, they will withhold PAYE, corporate income tax of the employees. They will withhold. So you work. Maybe your gross salary is supposed to be 10,200 Ghana cedis. But your take-home salary net at the end of the day is going to be whatever, let's say 7,200. Just an example, okay? 7,200. The difference has been withheld by your employer. And that amount is your tax that the employer has withheld, and the employer is supposed to give that to the GRA. But here we are again, some of the employers are not doing it. So you ask yourself, why? Because you have withheld the money. It is there in your bank account. It is there in your coffers. Just go to GRA and say, GRA, when I was paying Kukua Limited, per the law, this is how much I withheld. So I didn't give this money to Kukua Limited. This is the money. Take it, GRA. It is your money. Oh, GRA, when I was paying Adepa her salary for this month, I didn't pay her gross salary. I must subtract the tax. So I took out the tax from the salary of Adepa. Here is it, GRA. Take it. I mean, how hard is this? How hard should this be for companies, for some companies, to be involved in irregularity? Because you withhold the money is not yours, give it to the GRA, but you wouldn't give it. And that is the second key thing here about private and domestic entities. So about 1.6 billion Ghana cedis are in the hands of some companies, some individual, and it is not their money. Imagine what $1.6 billion Ghana cedis would do for the state. Imagine how many roads will be dealt with. Imagine how many schools under trees could be resolved. Imagine how many social amenities could be provided with 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. But it is in the hands of individuals and companies who have withheld these taxes and have refused to remit them to the GRA. That is not good corporate people. It's not good. Then certainly the third category is customs and trade actors, okay? Exploiting free zone loopholes, suspended taxes, and bypasses. Now, free zone enterprises, by law, are required to traditionally sell outside. Okay, so they produce and they export. So at least 70% of their produce must be sent outside. They export it. And so because of that, they are not supposed to pay VAT and all those things and all those things and all those things, right? Because if the thing is not consumed in Ghana, you cannot charge VAT and other levies on it. It's only when the thing is consumed in Ghana that you can charge VAT and levies on it. And so at least 70% of their produce is supposed to be paid, supposed to be sold outside, right? If they want to sell on the domestic market, Ghana, then they can sell up to just 30%. Now, the 30% that Free Zone Enterprises sell in Ghana includes the productions that do not meet the international standards. So if the goods or some of the products they produce do not meet international standards, then they can't export it, and so they will sell it on the local market. Now, the free zones are, companies that enjoy special tax dispensation. They can be owned 100% by residents and non-residents. Dividend paid by free zone enterprises is exempted from tax. They are a company that enjoy tax holiday for about 10 years and all of those things. And so the GRA has a responsibility of really monitoring their operations. Now, after the tax holiday, sales on exports are taxed at 25%. Sorry, 15%. And then the domestic sales will be taxed at 25%. That's the flow, generally at the end of the day. That's the flow. And so here is what happens when it comes to this. It means that the 70 that they sold outside, they won't charge VAT and anything. But the 30 that they sold in Ghana, they must charge VAT, NHIL, and other things on them, right? Then the duties that they paid on the 70% also, because the thing is not consumed in Ghana when they were importing the input, they would have to get a relief for them. But the ones that they sold on the local market, they may not get relief for them at the end of the day. It's quite a complex environment. But here's the play. Many players, as per the Auditor General's report, are exploiting the free zone loopholes. Because there are a lot of loopholes there because of how complex it is. And so some players there are exploiting the loopholes and they are bypassing the system. Because, sometimes you find out, okay, if I sell outside, I pay a tax of 15. If I sell on the domestic market, I pay a tax of 25%. How do you ensure that they didn't sell some on the domestic market and they exported? So sometimes the entity can say, oh, I sold 90% export and I sold only 10% in Ghana. Okay. It means the 90% exports, they will just pay a tax of 15, and then the 10% that they sold in Ghana, they will pay a tax of 25%. Who is monitoring to ensure that this is true? Because, there has been cases in the past, allegedly, where, they would say, oh, goods have crossed border, but the goods did not cross any border. But there are documentations that the goods have allegedly crossed the border, but they never crossed the border, and the goods are returned back and sold in the local market. So although an entity may be saying, I sold 90%, although an entity may be saying, I sold 90% outside, it may be less than that. But they do that because now they pay what? A lower tax. So all these things comes to the fact that the GRA must really make its maintenance, its oversight, or increase its oversight responsibilities about some of these companies. So these are the three things we are dealing with here. State institutions not paying taxes, domestic and private individuals withholding taxes and not remitting it to the Ghana Revenue Authority, and some players, actors in free zone and other areas bypassing, leveraging loopholes, and taking advantage of the system. And so let's come to the big bite, the state institution. Because, the domestic entities, 1.6 billion, that's significant. GRA can deal with them easily. The customs people, 222 million, that's a significant amount of money, plus $20.8 million. That also can be dealt with. But let's come to the big lions, the state institutions. Because the state institutions are the problems of this country as per the 2025 Auditor General's report. So in 2025, the state institutions prevented the government of Ghana from getting over 3 billion Ghana cedis into its coffers. Now remember, the state institutions are supposed to be overseen and supervised by SIGA. That is the state interest and governance authority. This is an authority established by an act of parliament in 2019 to supervise and ensure that state institutions are governed and run in an orderly manner to enhance profitability. And it came to being because the previous administration realized that a lot of state institutions were being run into the ground. And so let's have an authority that will really supervise how these state institutions are supposed to work. And so SIGA, I don't know, maybe they are sleeping on their job a little bit, because these are some of the things that SIGA is supposed to really look at for these entities to have good internal controls in place to ensure they pay their taxes as required, because it's part of good corporate governance that an entity pays its tax. So let's come. 3.02 billion owed by just 10 state institutions as of the end of 2024. Now, let me say this because the Auditor General's report brought an overlap. What does that mean? It means that this is not just for 2025. Some of the state institutions, the tax debt outstanding is actually from previous years, and then 2025 also inclusive. So it is not entirely 2025 because this is a cumulative debt. Do you understand? It's a cumulative debt. Because, taxes are paid in arrears for the most part here in Ghana by companies. And so it is not just a 2025 thing, but it's an overlap to the large extent that you must understand. Nearly 63% of the entire 4.8 billion national tax irregularity is locked within highly concentrated group of state-owned enterprises led overwhelmingly by yours favorite, Electricity Company of Ghana. So of this 3.02 billion Ghana cedi, Electricity Company of Ghana is owing in tax to the Ghana Revenue Authority this amount of money, 1.4 billion Ghana cedis and over. That's how much ECG is owing in taxes, followed by other entities, producer buying company, Gihog Distilleries, and then Tema Oil Refinery. So that's what's going on here. State-owned enterprises, for some reason, you would think that state-owned enterprises are supposed to have the country, have the state at heart, isn't it? Are supposed to do things in accordance with, the state and support the state. But for some reason, many of the state-owned enterprises may be sleeping on their job, right? Why we have this tax irregularities. Again, this is inclusive of various things like their corporate taxes, because they are supposed to pay corporate taxes and other forms of taxes that is due, which they are supposed to pay to the government that they've not paid yet. 3.02 billion Ghana cedis. Imagine what that could do to the republic. Imagine if the state-owned enterprises are run well and they do their job in the manner that they are expected to do their job, how that will improve our country. And that is where SIGA comes in. Because beyond efficient and effective internal controls, SIGA must also ensure that these entities are run in a manner that they become good corporate citizens. So not only are they profitable, because recently some of the state enterprises came and reported that they had recorded profit for the 2025 year. I think Tema Oil Refinery recorded profit for the first time in a number of years. And so some of them are, doing well. You will see that, their CEOs are running the companies well, and, they are being celebrated. But in addition to them now turning profit, they are also causing financial loss to the state in terms of the tax debt that we are not having as per the Auditor General's report, right? And that is one thing that we must understand there. And then unpaid value added taxes. Unpaid value added taxes. So 701.77 million. About 7,970 registered taxpayers in the Greater Accra region alone failed to remit VAT and associated levies. 7,970. Again, it goes back to what we said in the beginning, right? You have sold. Okay? You have sold. So you said what you are selling, the price of what you are selling is 100 Ghana cedis. Good. That is the price of what you are selling, 100 Ghana cedis. Then you add VAT of 15%, 15 Ghana cedis to it. Then NHIL and Get Fund, 5%, that is 5 Ghana cedis. Let's say that is all. So now you took from the customer 120 Ghana cedis. So you took 120 Ghana cedis from the customer. Your money is 100 Ghana cedis. Give the 20 Ghana cedis you collected in VAT, NHIL to the GRA. That also we have to beg you. And so 7,970 registered taxpayers in Greater Accra alone. This is Greater Accra. So imagine we go to Central Region. Imagine we go to Ashanti Region. Imagine we go to Volta Region and the others. Greater Accra, 7,970 people have not remitted. Now, there is a fine penalty for late remittances of this. And so that's why sometimes you will see that recently GRA has been going around and locking some offices for non-payment of taxes, right? And I think one of those famous companies will be, I think, Magdan, right? Magdan, one of Magdan's company, allegedly there are some taxes outstanding that hadn't been paid over a number of years, and GRA went there and I think locked the office or so, as per the stories in the news. I don't have the facts though, but I'm trying to tell you that, yes, GRA is taking some actions to ensure that they deal with some of those issues generally. Then outstanding income taxes. 650.74 million Ghana cedis. 17,418 taxpayers failed to settle overdue income taxes for the 2024 year of assessment. And that was estimated to give Ghana about 650.74 million Ghana cedis. 17,418 taxpayers. They failed to settle overdue taxes. So what does that mean? It means that the money is due. They have done their assessment. They are supposed to pay the taxes, but they've not paid it yet. Now, a lot of questions will be asked as to some of these things, right? So, for instance, why will a company not have the money to be able to pay its taxes? Okay, the tax is due. Why? Now, there are a couple of nuances, right, in practice that we have to understand and appreciate on the overall. It's not justification of the wrong, but there are a couple of nuances. Some companies may be having a lot of, working capital management issues. So in other words, top line is going up, but money is not coming in. So they may be selling significant portion of they may be doing a significant portion of their sales on a credit basis, and they are not able to manage trade receivables well. So the money is not coming in as quickly as possible. And so for the most part, the working capital of the entity may be funded by short-term loans or even bank overdraft by the entity. And so tax is due, but the money is not there because they may be waiting also for receivables, trade debtors to come and pay them. So probably they can also settle their tax at the end of the day. Now, that could be one of the issues in respect of that, right? Working capital management issues could be a challenge or a reason why an entity may not have the capacity or may not be in the position to be able to pay its debt as they fall due, its taxes as they fall due. Another thing sometimes could be, standard disregard by some people, right? Some of you might have experienced this before where you go to a shop, they have tax certificates pasted there, and they are a VAT agent, right? And so they sell everything in the shop, VAT is on it. So the final price you are paying is inclusive of VAT. Then they have two different receipt books. They have a standard receipt that they can issue for you. And yeah, you want receipt, right? And that receipt just bears the name of the company and that's all. Boom. They can issue that receipt to you. But then they have to issue a VAT invoice to you. The receipt they give you should be the official GRA VAT receipt, not a standard printed receipt book. So some companies, they are selling the product, VAT inclusive price, collecting the money, but will not issue receipt, the VAT receipt for the sales that they have made. And sometimes you ask yourself, why are you doing that? And it goes back to the example that I gave earlier, right? That you said your product is 100 Ghana cedis. That's how much you are selling it for. You've taken into consideration your profits. You've put extra 20,000 on it. That is for VAT and NHIL. You've collected that extra 20 Ghana cedis. Why do you want to keep it? Why would you want to keep the money that is not yours? So that's an issue there. So unlike the state debt, domestic revenue leakage is characterized by mass attrition rather than concentrated institutional failure. So the other issues or challenges coming in when it comes to the tax, like 7,970 people who are not remitting in Accra alone, and then about 17,418 people who also fail to pay their taxes. Now let's come to PAYE. Remember I gave you an example of PAYE earlier, that you have worked. Your employer is supposed to pay you your salary. Your employer has paid you your salary less taxes. So your employer has deducted tax from your salary. And they are supposed to remit that money to the Ghana Revenue Authority. Guess what? About 3,721 employers and directors withheld taxes from employees but failed to remit them to various tax offices. And the value for this infraction is 143.17 million Ghana cedis. Again, it goes back to what I keep asking, right? Why is this going on? You are supposed to pay your employees. You've paid them. And when you are paying them, you have deducted the tax, PAYE. And so you gave the net amount to the employee. The tax that you have deducted, what are you keeping it for? It's not yours. Remit it to the Ghana Revenue Authority. How hard is this discussion? And so it goes back to good corporate governance. It goes back to an entity having efficient, effective internal controls. It goes back to the work of auditors of many companies. Because these are things that auditors should be able to flag and let management know about. That, hey, you are withholding money, but when we check your tax returns, because tax is a key aspect of the audit, not only the income tax figure that comes in the P&L or the deferred tax figure that goes on the face of the statement of financial position, but issues about tax compliance. It's also something that the auditors are supposed to do. So does it mean auditors are failing us? To some extent, we can say yes. Because if the auditors are looking at tax compliance for these companies, then they will let them do the right job. And if they are not doing, can the auditor go and whistle blow, report these people to the GRA even before Auditor General comes in? So internal auditors, what are their functions? What are their duties in these ministries, departments, and agencies? What are they doing? Why aren't they doing their job well? Next, unpaid withholding taxes. Over 1,000 taxpayers defaulted. Some examples are given here, okay, which we'll get to in a moment. Then growth and sustainability levy. Now, this is a form of tax that is levied that companies are supposed to pay. Give me a sec because I want to see if I have my slide here on this one. So this levy is a special tax that is imposed, okay, that is imposed on corporate entities in Ghana to raise revenue for national development, economic growth, and fiscal sustainability of the economy. That is the growth and sustainability levy. Now, the payment is put into three major categories. Okay, so companies are structured into three major categories. Companies in category A pay 5% of their profit before tax into the as growth and sustainability levy. And companies in the category A include banks, financial institutions, insurance companies, telecom operators, oil marketing companies, and large breweries. These are in category A. 5% of their profit before tax goes straight into the growth and sustainability levy, or as growth and sustainability levy. 2, category B, 1% of gross production. These are mining companies as well as upstream petroleum and gas firm. 1% of their gross production. So how many ounces of gold that you produce for the period, how many barrels of oil you produce, gross production, 1% of that must go to the growth and sustainability levy. The category C refers to all other companies that are not in category A or category B, and they pay 2.5% of profit before tax into or as growth and sustainability levy. Now, the fun part is that there is no deduction for this, there is no exemption for this, and the payment has to be done at the end of each quarter. It's a quarterly thing, 31st March, 30th June, 30th September, and 31st December each year. So it is not the kind of expenditure that companies incur, and it will be allowable for tax purposes. Those of you in principles of taxation or advanced taxation, it is not an allowable expenditure. So you pay it, it's gone. You don't get relief for it. Unlike other expenses that you are going to be getting a relief for, this one, you get no relief for it at all at the end of the day. And so when it comes to growth and sustainability levy, infraction, about 813 companies bypass the required levies in direct contravention of the Growth and Sustainability Levy Act of 2023. They bypassed it. 813 companies. How much are we talking about? Just 8.3 million Ghana cedis. It's not that much, right? 8.3 million Ghana cedis. It's not that much, but it could still do something. And I remember when this thing was introduced, many of the companies kicked against it because of the fact that especially the rate, right? So people were arguing about the rate. 5%, 1%, 2.5%. Companies were like 2.5% of my profit to growth and sustainability levy. Then I'll pay corporate tax again. Then I'm paying dividend to my shareholders. Then we have to also withhold tax on the dividend we are paying. Bro, that's too much. And the fun part is that this is not deductible. So I cannot write it off against my tax. But that is it. Just a little amount of money there. And so just some few companies that were cited here that we need to be mindful of. Again, as we mentioned, nothing in this video as we are discussing is an indication of guilt or any company committing anything. We are just expressing and talking about what is in the Auditor General's report, as we indicated, and as you can see in our disclaimer notes there. So, for instance, Summer Oil Limited lifted 48 million liters of petroleum products between late 2024 and early 2025. There is about 84.24 million in unpaid duties on that. So you see that this is early 2024, late 2024, and early 2025. You get a place. So that's why I was telling you that many of the tax irregularities that we are talking about, it doesn't mean they all happened in 2025. Do you get it? Some of them are overlapping from previous years into where we are now. Then the transit vulnerability, about 208 transit transactions remain outstanding, well beyond the allowable 2 months legal window. Several delays reach up to 11 days. Okay. Other companies, Enclave Power Ghana Limited, Free Zone Company, failed to pay duties and taxes on local sales. Because remember, we said local sales will attract tax at 25%, about $19.4 million as per the Auditor General's thing. Then Gold Recovery Ghana Limited is a commodity withholding failure, and so failed to withhold taxes on gold and silver bar sales to the Ghana Gold Board. So failed to withhold taxes on gold and silver bar sales to Ghana Gold Board, $1.5 million in respect of that. And so, it's on the part of the entity Gold Recovery Ghana Limited to withhold some taxes, right, on gold and silver bar sales to Ghana Gold Board, but they did not. That's also another amount of money that we could have received. Then we spoke about the government, the GRA, the ECOMS bypass earlier, compromising the digital integrity. Goods successfully exited ports despite possessing incomplete bill of entry. And so these are internal system failures. Okay, so this is not just administrative delay. It is an active circumvention of ECOM's digital gating protocols, allowing physical goods to leave state control without tax assessment. So who is supposed to do that? Who is supposed to ensure that things are done in the manner that they are expected to be done? Whose duty it is to ensure that all goods have bill of entry and the right appropriate taxes are assessed? We have digitized system, but not working well, and people are bypassing it in respect of that. And so the entire 4.8 billion that came as a result of the tax irregularity, which represents about 91% of the total irregularities as reported in the 2025 Auditor General's report, can be coming into has been caused by three key things. One, poor monitoring. Poor monitoring. So a failure of oversight at the highest level of the Ghana Revenue Authority. So Ghana Revenue Authority, if they are playing their oversight role well, possibly we may not have a lot of these irregularities. Again, that is why GRA goes around these days strictly trying to close certain shops, get the money and all of those things, right? Because that's a way of doing the thing. But again, you have to be careful of how some of these things are going to be, right? Yes, a company is owing taxes. Okay. So what do? You're going to close down the business, all right? You close down the business pending that they should come and pay. Okay, now that you've closed down the business, some people also owe them. If you have closed down the business, how will those people owing them will come and pay them so they can get the money to come and pay you? Because possibly they may not be having the money and they've not paid the tax that they are supposed to pay it. And so if you close the business that, hey, they should go look for money and come and pay all the taxes due, then how do we move that? And so it's a little nuance, it's a little disturbing nuance that every time the GRA, in my opinion, right? This is my opinion, not coming from anywhere. This is my opinion. It's also, looking at it very well. Like I said, okay? So if someone is owing you and you close their business, okay, where do they get the money to come and pay you? So maybe we can enter into an agreement. And so probably a lot of those things could be into negotiation. Even if you take the companies to court, yes, they will acknowledge that they owe, but they are not going to carry the money home and give to the state because they may not have it there. So they will enter into an arrangement so they can make the payments in installments, right? And so that is always what is done. And sometimes we've heard news, allegedly, not factually, may not be factually correct, where people or businesses have entered into such arrangement with GRA, but they fail to honor their part of the bargain. And so in that case, then GRA has no option than to say, we shut you down, and boom, that is all. But that's the first thing, poor monitoring. The second thing is weak supervision. Frontline staff operating without sufficient check and accountability. That's an important thing. Like I was saying, the role of the internal auditors, the audit committees in these institutions. What are they doing? I was talking about SIGA, the State Interest and Governance Authority. How are they playing their supervisory role? Because these are some of the things that they must ensure and do and establish, help the companies establish so that whatever tax that must be withheld is withheld. When the tax is withheld, you have to pay it to the Ghana Revenue Authority. Do not keep the money. So weak supervision, one of the issues there. And the problem in the public sector, ministries, department, and agency is because internal auditors and audit committee are not really independent. Although in theory, they are supposed to be independent, in practice, they are not really independent. Why? Because they are promotions, okay? Their salary and other benefits will be approved by the principal spending officer or the chief director, right? Principal spending officer of the institution. So the CEO, the chief director, that is the person who is going to approve your promotion. That is the person who is going to determine where you go, what you are going to do, and all of those things. And so if you see that person doing something wrong, how do you say it? And so that is why there is currently an act, I think, in Parliament being worked on also to bring some level of independence for internal auditors. Because it's crucial. If we don't have high level of independence for internal auditors in ministries, departments, and agencies, metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, corruption and irregularities will continue because they may see it, but they may be afraid of losing their job. They may be afraid of losing their promotion. They may be afraid of losing their ability to be able to advance their career. So they will sit on it because a lot of these things could have been prevented if there is significant supervision in their companies. Then the third thing is zero follow-up. Okay? A systemic culture of allowing overdue taxes, suspended transit times up to 411 days, and incomplete entries to languish without investigation. That's another problem. Okay? Things must be done. Things must be done. So the Auditor General concludes that the 4.8 billion loss is not technologically inevitable, okay, but direct consequences of institutional negligence. Institutional negligence. This is something that could have been prevented. This is something that could have been stopped. This is something that shouldn't have happened. So it is total institutional negligence. And so the big question we then ask ourselves is, okay, we've seen the things, 91.4% average on the average of the financial irregularities related to tax irregularities. We've seen that primarily it's because of poor monitoring on the part of GRA, lack of supervision, and then also zero follow-up. So what is the way out? What should be done? And this is the interesting part, because every year, Auditor General will say the same thing. Public Accounts Committee will do a public hearing. They will say the same thing. But it's like we always come back to the same issues subsequently. Yes, at least in 2025, we are seeing a significant improvement. And sometimes that is what happens when there is change in government, right? And so we are hoping that going into the future, there will be sustainable decrease. But what are the things that they can do? What are the course of action? What is the action plan? As per the Auditor General, what should these institutions do to prevent the repetition of such errors? A number of points given. 1, intense monitoring mandate. So these are the recommendations by the Auditor General. Intense monitoring mandate. And so the Commissioner General of the GRA must immediately intensify institutional supervision of frontline staff to restore basic collection efficiency. That's the first thing. GRA must do their job well. 2, aggressive legal enforcement. This is an interesting one. GRA must weaponize all available legal tools against recalcitrant debtors. Because like I said, you have sold your goose. You've taken your profits. You have gone home and chilled with your family. When you were paying the people, you withheld taxes. That money does not belong to you. You cannot sit on that money. You cannot chill or buy a car or have fun or travel abroad with money you withheld whilst making payment to people. You cannot. So GRA must aggressively enforce and use all the legal means available. What does that mean? Distress proceedings, seizing property. In some cases, take over the properties to be able to collect the money. Garnishing accounts, and then direct court actions. So some people could be sued, right? But again, sometimes this is where sometimes I think the president last year mentioned that there will be specialized courts established so that they can deal with all the infractions that must be prosecuted, right, quickly as possible. So if we have specialized courts for some of these things, then GRA could rapidly. But if it is going to go through the normal legal system, sometimes it's going to take time. And if you look at how much money GRA has to spend, the resources they must allocate, by the time they finish, the money they would have spent on the legal processes would cover a significant portion of how much money the person is supposed to pay. But the Auditor General says, hey, listen, it's an option available, use it. Number 3 is sanctions, bilateral sanctions. Strict, uncompromising penalties applied, not only to the defaulting taxpayers and corporations, but equally to the GRA officials who enabled the leakage. And that is the play, right? Because it's like bribery. You don't call the politician or the public officer receiving the bribe as the only person committing the offense. But the person giving the bribe equally commits an offense. And so Auditor General is saying that, hey, listen, not only should we penalize the entities who are withholding taxes and not remitting it, the entities who are not paying their corporate taxes as they are supposed to pay, but the officials, the frontline GRA officials who are enabling these leakages must also be called on. Because sometimes they may go out, right? And they're supposed to collect the money. They must insist that the money is collected. But sometimes the environment may not be or may be friendly for them to, forget that they are there to collect money. And so there should be bilateral sanctions. Sanction the officials who are enabling these leakages because it's their job to give money to the state. And we are losing 4 billion Ghana cedis. 4 billion Ghana cedis. Do you know how many roads under the Big Push project can be funded with 4 billion Ghana cedis if it came into the coffers of the country? Do you know the relief that the government will get and not go on the bond market or the domestic market to go and raise money if this 4 billion came? So, Auditor General is saying intensify monitoring GRA, take legal action if possible, and use all the legal tools available at your disposal. If you have to seize people's property, seize them, sell them, get the money back. If you have to prosecute them, get your money. But on top of that, as you are punishing the entities involved in these irregularities, your own staffs must also be held accountable because they may be part of the scheme enabling this particular action that is taking place generally. And these are the 3 recommendations, keenly, that the Auditor General made when it comes to these tax infractions. So generically, these are the key things that you must understand about that 91.2% of financial irregularities in the in the Auditor General's report for 2025. So of all the irregularities, 91.2% related to tax irregularities. And these are the issues that the Auditor General highlighted and talked about. And so the question is, will these entities going into the future start paying taxes that they have withheld, start remitting them, start paying their corporate taxes? Will institutions who have withheld payments who have withheld taxes whilst making payment to their employees start remitting the money to the Ghana Revenue Authority? Sometimes in the past, even pensions. So if your PAYE that has been withheld is not given to GRA, is your pension actually in your pension fund? And that is why people are encouraged to regularly check their SNIT, pension, to find out whether their employer is actually paying the money. It's serious. And it is something that you have to do every time. Because if there are institutions withholding your taxes and they are not remitting it to the Ghana Revenue Authority, is it possible that they are withholding your pension and they are not paying into the pension fund? It's possible. In the past, we saw some stories about that coming in where money has been withheld for taxes, but for months, these monies were not remitted to the pension fund, which means your pension is not accruing any interest. You may go on retirement and au revoir mon ami on your pension. But I've been working for this company. Why are you telling me au revoir mon ami? Yeah. Your company may have been deducting the money, but not remitting it into the pension fund. And so that is just something on the sideline that you have to do, because if some entities are withholding money and they are not giving it to GRA, which they are supposed to do, then possibly your pension may equally not be updated. And you have to be careful about that to ensure that you don't fall prey to that. So 91.2% of the irregularities, financial irregularities from taxes. So the 8.9 whatever percent that we have relates to other issues that we can talk about briefly. Let's see if I can bring those issues up. The payroll issue, because remember we said payroll irregularity. It has reduced significantly from 57.89, as we mentioned, to just 19 million. That's a significant reduction. Nonetheless, there are some things that the Auditor General highlighted when it comes to the payroll aspect. Number one is diseased pensioners. Listen, these people are diseased. The Controller Accountant General failed to update status, and so salary continued. What is the result of this? 7.49 million paid to 4 dead pensioners or pensioners between 2019 to 2026. 4 people. We paid them 7.49 million. Why? Because Controller Accountant General failed to update their status in the system. So we were just paying. Only 4 people, 7.49 million. The question we need to ask ourselves is, into which account were these payments made? Okay, so let's go to the accounts of these 4 people. If they are diseased, then we expect to find the 7.49 million in the accounts of these 4 people. They are diseased, right? So it means the account is not active. And so let's trace forensic auditing, right? Let's trace into these 4 diseased people the account into which this 7.49 million was paid into. And we expect that we will find the 7.49 million in those accounts. If they are not there, then we need to speak with the bank. Hey, these people were dead or are dead between 2019 to 2026. They were dead in 2019 upward. So who has been coming to the bank to withdraw the money from this account? It's an easy thing that we should do, because sometimes you hear they say, oh, they are making payment to God's name. Who is receiving the money? And who goes to the bank to withdraw the money every day? We should easily find this. 2, unreserved bond. Status: staff granted steady leave with pay. Staff granted steady leave with pay. Staff complete study but absconds. Bond conditions ignored. You were studying. Sometimes I always say that we are the problem of our own nation. Like we are the reason why this country is not developing is because we are our own evils. You said you are going to study, and they give you the study leave with pay. And the condition was that you were studying. So it could be 2 years, it could be 6 months, it could be 18 months. You were studying. So you were not coming to work, but we were paying you. The condition was that if you finish your studies, you have to come back and work for the entity. Why? Because that's the agreement. We still pay you your salary as though you are working because you went to study. Now you finish studying, come back and work for the company. You said, Mba, Otilo, you do au revoir mon ami and run away. So if government from now says that, hey, from today onwards, we will not give anybody steady leave with pay, it means you have blocked the opportunity of other people who may not abscond, who may not have it in their mind to run. And if nothing is done to these people, it sets a precedent that, oh, you can take steady leave with pay, go and study. When you finish, show them the institution your middle finger and you go away. Nobody can do you anything. And that is a challenge we have in our part of the world, where people lack accountability, where people cannot be honest. Because we live in a country where people, the level of dishonesty is too much. People will borrow money and will remove the SIM card and chew the SIM card or throw the SIM card away. When you ask them, they are like, I've been buying credit from this company. They are stealing my money, sir. They've stolen my credit, sir. So me to have borrowed money from them, I won't pay again. So our whole mindset This cleanup exercise, some places were demolished. Then you see some people, we won't vote again for this country, for this party. Why? We thought that they came for our good. Look at us. We sell here to take care of our family. And look at us. They have demolished us and all that and all that. You are illegally occupying somewhere, blocking water passage. We should allow you, because you voted for the party to come to power, so we should allow you to continue with your illegality, because you are the only person who has a family to feed, so that your illegal action causes mayhem to everybody else, and we should allow you because you voted for the party that is in power. What kind of stupidity is this? And these are the issues where our level of thinking and mindset when it comes to national issues is so diabolical, and sometimes you cannot fathom why people do certain things that they do. So steady leave, staff complete, au revoir mon ami, they are gone. What is the result of this? 561,000 Ghana cedis lost at Kole Klote Health Directorate. 201,000 Ghana cedis lost at the Ministry of Education headquarters. Just like that. People receive the money, studied, au revoir messieurs. Receive the money, studied, au revoir messieurs. And it will surprise you that some of these people will sit down and sheepishly say that, look at the government. They are not doing this. They are not doing that. They are not doing this. They are not doing that. When you are part of the people causing financial loss to the state. Then the last one, public nurses deployed to private clinic. Public nurses deployed to private clinic. Ama Dansoa Clinic retained on government payroll. Because if the nurses have been deployed to private facilities, then now the private facility is supposed to pay their salaries, right? So their names should no longer be on the payroll of government. But guess what? This resulted into 619,869 Ghana cedi illegally paid over 4 years. Illegally paid over 4 years. So the question is this: did those nurses receive the money? If they did, then they must pay it back. The various internal auditors and the Controller Accountant General, they should have updated the payroll system and not continue to make payment for these. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier in respect of the integrity and honesty thing. If you are a nurse and you have been deployed into a private facility, and the terms of agreement is that you are taking your salary. So every month, the private facility is giving you your salary. But for some strange reasons, you are still getting some money from the government of Ghana. So your salary, probably more, is also coming from the government of Ghana. What is it that you will go to your ministries, the directorate, go there and say, hey, listen, I have been deployed to the private facility. I'm getting my salary, but every month I'm still receiving money for my in my account from the government of Ghana. But that is not supposed to be the case. How many people took these initiatives to try to correct the system, and we left it open for 4 years, and we have paid 619,869. So this money has been received by people who were not supposed to receive the money in the first place. So these are some of the things that occurred in the payroll system, right? In the payroll system. So really, the significant issue here about the payroll is these 4 diseased people who are still being paid their pension between, who were dead, but they were still being paid their salary between 2019 and 2026, right? They're still getting their salary. That's amazing. That's a significant portion of the discussion, inclusive of the other issues that we must understand. So that's the second thing, the payroll irregularity. Okay? That's the payroll irregularity. Now, just some few other issues, then I think we will be done here. Then contractual attrition. Per the Auditor General's report, these are paid for but were never delivered. Paid for but were never delivered. So the Phantom Patrol boat, Ministry of Fisheries paid 2.3 million. That is 15% of the contract sum to Arch Coop and Associate for a patrol boat. As of December 2025, no boat has been supplied. Now, normally, it depends though, but boats sometimes takes time. Okay, because when it's ordered, sometimes it has to be manufactured. So we don't really know the reason for this. The contract may have to be reviewed. Yes, it is right for the Auditor General to raise concern and say, hey, you've made a payment, but the boat has not been delivered. What is causing the delay? So we can ask questions about what is causing the delay. But as I said, some of these things may be custom built. There may be some specialties or specializations that the Ministry of Fishery may be requiring, which may require more time. And so the entity may take more time to build the boat than required. So probably that could be the delay. And they have paid 15% of the contract sum. And so probably there is further documentation that must be obtained in respect of this. Second one is the missing rent. Facility managers of the Ghana Olympic House collected 11,678,683 in rent from the Youth Employment Authority, but never transferred it to the consolidated fund. Okay, and that's another serious issue there, Ghana Olympics House. So they collected rent from the Youth Employment Authority, but that money never entered the consolidated fund. Now, there could be a reason, because in the past we've heard some of these things where the entities will come before the Public Accounts Committee and they will be like, oh, we collected the money, but then we have to also pay some money as well. And so when we collected the money, we use part of the money to make the payment, right? So in other words, they hadn't taken the money, right? They use it to pay something else. But that is not how the public financial management system works. The system is not like, oh, you've collected money and you're supposed to pay some money, so you use the money to pay. No, there are some money, when you collect it, they must go straight into the consolidated fund directly. Then, if you have to pay for something, you raise a payment warrant, and the payment warrant will be given to the Ministry of Finance. Then the Ministry of Finance will tell controller, then they wire back your payments for you, so you can use it to fund your operational activities. So sometimes that is what is happening here. It will surprise you that these facility managers may come because of some of the things that had happened in the past before the Public Accounts Committee. That's why I'm saying this. That they may come before the Public Accounts Committee and say that, yeah, we collected the money, but we equally had to pay for A, B, C, D, and so we use the money to pay for these expenditures. Again, is that the right thing to do? No. Because per the law, that's not what they are supposed to do. You are supposed to pay it first into the consolidated fund. Then, if you need money to make payment, you raise the warrant, and then the money will be wired to you back so you can make your payment. So failure to pay it first into the consolidated fund is an irregularity, is in contravention, is in breach of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921. I hope you get what is happening here. Then, the unexecuted works. Western North Regional Coordinating Council paid MS Ray Construction 91,400 in full for works that were simply never executed. Okay. So that is another thing there in respect of that. So payment has been made, but no work done. Payment has been made, but no work's done. So these are some of the things that we must understand when it comes to things that have been paid for but were never delivered. But as I said, the boat issue like this, maybe the contract requires a number of time and they are building it. Maybe they are building it. So the contract may have to be reviewed for us to check what's happening. Then the rental people, as I said, yeah, they have collected the money, but they could equally say they use it to fund an activity. Then money paid, no work has been done. I mean, we've heard that over and over again. I mean, from the Kwalugu Dam project and all those things, we've heard some of those things there. So those are some contract issues that we need to understand in respect of that. And so in putting everything together, human cost of it, a total of 5,266 unaccounted for, uncollected, and mismanaged by state apparatus. What is the deficit? 10,730 public basic schools across 13 regions currently lack physical classroom blocks. Impact. Over 3 million students enrolled are forced to conduct learning under trees, sheds, and temporary shelters in violation of the Pre-Tertiary Education Act. What is the context then? The funds lost to unpresented vouchers at the Ministry of Energy alone, which is supposed to be 285 million Ghana cedis, could fundamentally alter this infrastructure deficit. So you see the real cost of what's happening. That if the right thing is done, some of these problems shouldn't be seen. Because people are still learning under trees. People are still experiencing things they are not supposed to be experiencing. I mean, we are in 2026. This is Ghana. And many people are still learning under trees. Many people are still writing with chalk, don't have computers available. But there are a lot of infractions happening in our public sector institutions that we must look out for in respect of that. So these are some of the few things that we need to be mindful of, that we need to understand. And so in putting the pieces together, as we said, when it comes to the corporate tax evasion aspect, deploy immediate debt enforcement tools and redeem suspended taxes from transit bond. And this is the Commissioner General of the GRA supposed to do that. The internal cash or payroll losses recover funds with interest applied at prevailing BOG rate, deduct monthly repayment directly at source via Controller Accountant General. Okay, at source. So rather than leaving the PAYE deductions to the covered entities, the ministries and agencies, maybe it can be done at source at the Controller Accountant General. And the action here is validating officers and beneficiaries. That's regular validation is important because if someone dies, you know. I mean, sometimes some of these public officers, they attend a funeral. One time at the Public Accounts Committee or before the Public Accounts Committee, like I think it was a hospital or so, the hospital attended, the leadership of the hospital attended the funeral of the deceased person. They attended the funeral of the deceased person. So they knew that this person is no longer with us. But for some reason, it didn't occur to them to update their payroll. So they continued paying the salary of the person that was deceased, whose funeral they had attended. So, I mean, sometimes you ask yourself, like, what do we do? The internal control system should be designed in such a manner that certain things should easily be done. Right? Somebody is dead. You update the system. Boom. Delete the person's name from the payroll. So there will be no salary going again to the. I mean, how hard is this? How hard is this? Then certainly the unaccounted expenditure of vouchers. If funds cannot be traced, The principle of personal liability must strictly apply. What does that mean? It means chief directors, CEOs must be surcharged and personal assets held liable to refund Auditor General's recoveries accounts. So things that we paid for, like these things that we spoke about here, this that we paid for that the work has not been done. If we can't trace the money, we can't confirm this. This work, that the work has not been executed, then the chief directors, the CEOs of those companies, they will be personally liable for it. We sell their properties and they will be reliable for it at the end of the day. And so these are the things that we must understand when it comes to some of the key issues in the Auditor General's report. Yes, there is a significant improvement in the 2025 performance, ministries, department, and agencies when it comes to how public expenditure controls have been tightened. So a lot of the loopholes have been cut. And that's a very good thing that we can say. But as we mentioned, whilst the Minister of Finance, Uncle Atuforsen, has been turning the tap on expenditure to ensure that we only spend when it is required to be spent and ensuring that that goes to all of the ministries, departments, and agencies, he's not opening the tap on the revenue inflows. And so that is where the GRA must step in. Minister of Finance must now let GRA come in and do their job very well. And be on them, guys. We need money to run the country, bro. Give us some money. Then SIGA, the State Interest and Governance Authority, must also step in to play their oversight responsibilities well so that the state-owned enterprises, joint venture corporations, and other public interests that companies, the government has, are doing their job very well, paying the taxes they are supposed to pay, remitting the taxes that they have to remit, so that as a country on the overall, we are able to be profitable. Because 4.8 billion or 5 billion Ghana cedis, 91% of that, a little over 4 billion, could do a lot for this country. We could deal with a lot of the challenges that we have in this country, and we may not have to go and borrow money on the international market if these funds are released and coming in generally. So these are some of the things that we must understand when it comes to the Auditor General's report. Any questions, comments, thoughts that you have for me? I'm seeing some chats coming up. Let's see. I'm going to try to see if I can bring some of them up. Any questions for me? Any questions for me? I see some of you coming up. Give us a thumbs up if you are getting some value, and then comment below with any questions you have, comments you have on what we are covering here. Okay, so I'm seeing some chats coming up. Give me a sec. I want to see if I can bring some of the chats up. We also live on TikTok as well. Okay. So TikTok, we also see you guys coming in. Any questions for me? Just seeing if we can bring some of the questions up. Remember that our enrollment is ongoing for the November 2026 examination. And you can register to start studying and put yourself in the position to go and pass the examination generally at the end of the day. Okay, so let's see, sort of have something here. Kwesi Apia Boche said, interesting. Okay. Yep. It's interesting how Ghana is run, right? Then another comment is coming here from Toby Alimi said, "Good day. Need help writing advanced audit from Nigeria." You can check our playlist on audit and assurance on the channel. Okay, so check the playlist on audit and assurance on the channel. You should be able to get some content on advanced audit and assurance. You have to focus on some thematic areas to help you pass the advanced audit and assurance examination. Ethical issues, you're going to see questions about that. Audit planning and risk assessment, you're going to be seeing questions about that. So you got to be strong on that. Number 3 is audit procedures and audit evidence standard. You're going to see some questions coming in from there. 20 marks. Sometimes it could be above or more than that. So that's the third area. You have to be strong in audit procedures and audit evidence. Number 4 is going to be audit reporting. Very important. The audit report itself, the going concern issues, subsequent events, right? Events after the reporting period, very important. All of those things that you must understand. Then some non-assurance services. Okay, so thematically, ethics, audit planning and risk assessment, audit procedures, audit evidence, audit reporting, and certainly some of the non-assurance services. These are issues that definitely you are going to be seeing in the exam hall when it comes to advanced audit and assurance. So you can check the channel and then you will be able to get access to some of these contents to help you to prepare well for your examination and pass the exam. So these are some of the things that we want to share our thoughts on when it comes to the Auditor General's report. And you can get a copy of the Auditor General's report and read it for yourself if you want to. What we have done in this presentation is just bring out some key issues highlighted to bring home the discussions, but there are ministry related focus specific issues. So Ministry of Finance, the things that happen there, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Interior. So all the ministries, right, are available there that you must understand, because this is ministries, department, and agencies that I'm looking at. Maybe in the other session, in another session, we will focus on some of the public schools. Okay, so because there is an audit report also on the public schools for us to see what is going on. Because everything we've discussed today, focusing largely on the ministries, department, and agencies. Okay, but possibly in the next session, we'll look at the public institutions. Okay, some public schools and others, and see some of the things going on there as well. Because some of those institutions are also involved in some level of irregularities, to highlight them and also see how they all fit in our understanding in this journey as we are going on at the end of the day. So that is it about that. We're going to wrap up around here today. Thanks for joining us on the stream. It's really, really a pleasure having you guys joining us on the stream. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the sharing of the video. Thanks for the comments. And definitely, we're going to be seeing you on the next one as we continue with our discussion. Again, our enrollment is ongoing, has opened. You can register to start studying for the November 2026 ICAG examination. And our live lectures will be starting on 10th of August 2026. So you can start studying now to put yourself in the position to go into the exam hall. Check the description of this video, the first link that is there. You can click on that, visit our website, nhyirapremium.com, or you can download the Nhyira Premium mobile application on the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. There are free videos available, a lot of articles available in the Nhyira Premium mobile application that you can get access to. So download it, leverage the free videos and the articles available there. Then if you want our paid programs also, you can enroll in some of them. If you have any other questions, you can send us a message on WhatsApp or call. The number you see, 050-114-9296, 050-114-9296. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week. And in the course of the week, make sure you stay connected, because we will be coming your way to discuss some few things as we prepare ourselves and going into November 2026. Stay safe and have a blessed week. Bye-bye. Why? No, like I'm not sure. It's ready. So you can check it.